to hit record. But that way it's just available if you want to look back on it later, and then for folks who can't make it as well. I am Marnie Turner. I'm the parent liaison for Eaton Great Start. And with me today, I've got Betsy Clinton, who is our care coordinator at Eaton Great Start. And we also have Sarah Martin joining us, and she's a quality improvement consultant for the Great Start to Quality Central Resource Center. And I am going to go ahead and hand this over to Betsy, and she's going to be your presenter today.
All right. Well, the first thing is I'm going to try to do this without my glasses, which glare like crazy. But if you suddenly see me stumbling around for my reading glasses, you'll know why. Looking for childcare is probably one of the bigger decisions you have with the kiddos. What we're hoping to do is give you kind of a guide to go through the process of what the steps are to acquire good childcare. There are basically 5 steps when you're looking for childcare. So the first one is determining what you need in the program, and what Lane needs and what Shannon needs are going to be totally different. So we want to make sure that you are figuring out what the needs are for you. We're going to assess your financial resources, and then we're going to work with the search engine we have that comes out of the Great Start to Quality program. It's a beautiful search engine. We're going to teach you how to do it, and we're actually going to walk you through a search. We're going to talk a little bit about screening programs. So once you decide on one, what should you look for? And then once you've secured care, what's next? So those are our 5 steps. The first part we want to talk about is determining what you need in a program. And we mentioned that what their needs are very unique to them. Some clarification of terms. So when you look at what kind of program you want to look at, there are, if you're talking about childcare, that's anywhere from an infant up through school age kids. So it could encompass any kind of care at all that's outside of your home. If you talk about preschool, that's a program specifically for children who are 3 to 5 years old. That might be in a family home, it might be in a group home, it might be in a center, but they have some kind of a curriculum that's specifically for kids getting ready for kindergarten, those older children. There are programs like Early Head Start, Great Start to Readiness Program, Head Start. These are programs that are for low cost or free programs for eligible families. So that might be what you're looking for. There are also folks who are just looking for a school age before and after program, or for a summer only program. So we'll touch on all of those. Beyond what type of program, you need to think of things like ratios. So a childcare center is going to have multiple classrooms with a range of kids from infant up through 5-year-olds usually. The ratio of caregiver to the child depends on the age of the kids. So when you're starting with infants and toddlers, that's a 1-to-4 ratio, and that'll move up to a 1-to-12 ratio for their older preschoolers. A family home is licensed up to 6 kids, and that could be the full range of ages there. They are limited how many infants they can have, so 2 infants, and only 4 of the kids can be under 30 months. That makes sure that they can give the proper care for all the kids. And that maximum ratio there, that place is 1 to 6. When you get up to the group home, it's still a 1 to 6 ratio, but they can have up to 12 children in that program, in that setting. The next thing you need to figure out is when. Are you going to be looking for full-time care, so that Monday through Friday, you know, kind of an 8 to 5 sort of a job, or would be looking for part-times, just mornings, or just a few days a week? Do you need it for the full year, or do you need it just for the school year? So if your kids are going to be out from school, will you be looking for something different? Thinking about times, some folks need super early drop-off times or really late pickup times, or they might need overnights or 3rd shift positions. So that's something you need to look at when you're making your search. And some folks, like I said, are just looking for a summer-only program. Location is going to be a really big part of your decision-making. So do you want it to be close to your work or close to your home, for example? I worked very far from where I lived, but I wanted my child to be close to my workplace so I could get to him fast if there was a problem. You make that decision. Do you need it to be on a bus line? And transportation, that's going to be a big part of it. Do you want to have this childcare on a route that you're already taking to get to schools or to home or to work? And do you need it to be on a bus line? Do they offer transportation? So those are all things to look at. Questions so far? You right there? Okay. So step 2 is looking at the cost of the program. So above and beyond just the tuition for the week, you also have to look at things like, are there any deposits or application fees? You might be looking, for example, for a free or low cost program like that early Head Start or GSRP or Head Start programs. Or you might be looking at a tuition-based program. Some folks will need to know if the provider will take a state subsidy like the CDC, which is sometimes known as the DHS subsidy, or if they'll accept scholarships like LCC has a scholarship, Veterans Association has a scholarship. So will they take that? For costs in Eaton County, it's a big range. It runs from anywhere from like 120 a week up through 200 plus a week. Ideally, the government is hoping that you can keep your childcare costs to 10% of your income, but we know for a fact that in the state of Michigan, folks are tending to have to pay more, closer to 20% of your income to cover the cost of childcare. So there are programs for assistance. So first of all, we talked a little bit about the Head Start programs and the Great Start to Readiness programs, which are both state and federal programs. If you're interested in that, there's a phone number right here to call, or there is an application for the Great Start to Readiness programs or the Head Start programs. You complete that application online and the information's right there. If you want to just learn more about financial supports, you can go to the Michigan Health and Human Services website. And once you learn a little bit about it, you would apply for that through the My Bridges site. All right, are you familiar with the My Bridges a little bit? Because we can coach you through that if you need to. All right, are there questions right now? You guys good? All right, holler if you need anything. Okay, so step 3 is we're looking at the actual search engine. So looking for programs in your area. So the Great Start to Quality has a search engine which has all of the licensed programs in Michigan. So you don't have to use this and then go looking for other lists to look at as well. This one's going to have all of the licensed care in Michigan. So it gives you some confidence in your choice. You know that you're seeing all the options. What we're going to do is we're going to go to that greatstarttoquality.org and I'll talk you through the step, and then we're going to come back and actually do a search. All right. So the first thing you're going to do when you get there is along the top, it has a section that says families. And then from there, you're going to click on finding childcare and preschool. From there, you're going to click that button that says find programs. And find programs takes you to the login page. When you log in, you have 2 choices. You can log in as a guest, or if you want to save your search so that you can come back to it again and click what your favorites are, you're going to want to create a profile. So you'll enter your email address and create a password, or they will send you a password. All right. Once you're in, there's a couple different ways to filter your search. So you'll see there's 3 tabs there. One says find, one says type, and one says program. The find is, do you want a center? Remember that center is a larger program with multiple classrooms and a range of ages. And that also might include the early Head Start programs, and GSRP programs. You might be looking for a family home, which is that smaller, more intimate program, and that would be 6 children. Or a group home, which is up to 12 children. So you can click one of those boxes or click all 3 of those boxes if you want it wide open. The next tab is type. So some folks are looking for something specific, like a faith-based program or a GSRP program. So you can click one of those if that's something specific that you're looking for. And then the 3rd tab says program. And that's if you know specifically the program you want, you can click the program tab and you can type it in. You do need to know that if you don't type it exactly as it looks on the site, it won't show up. So it may still be there. Don't panic if you don't see it. So then it's going to ask where you want to search, and this is a required field. You can search by city or you can search by zip code. So you would type that under the where that says city, and then down below you're going to click a button that says, I think, find, and it will go for it. There's two little filters down underneath there. One is said caring for ages, meaning you could say I'm looking for infant care, and it would eliminate any program that didn't have infant care. Or you could say days and hours. If you had something unusual, you could enter in there like I need evening care or I need weekend care. Please note that when you're searching, the more filters you put on, the fewer providers will be shown. So if you broaden your search initially and really look at all the options, that's probably better than filtering it down to the point where you don't get anybody showing up on the search. Sometimes providers don't update their profiles, so they might actually offer something that doesn't show up on their site. So for example, they might say they're only open to 5 o'clock, but they've changed it to 6 o'clock. And if you say I need to be there till 5:30, you won't get to see that person at all. So you might just want to limit the search and make some calls and find out a little bit more about some programs. All right. So if you want to do some more filters though, you can look at what your schedule is going to be, and you can put that in there. You know, do you want full-time, part-time, before and after programs, evenings? You can look at funding sources. For example, if you will be using CDC subsidies, do they accept that? Do they have a sibling discount? Is there a membership affiliation that you think is important that you want them to be a part of? Or do they accept kids with special needs, food allergies, or a child with autism, for example? Those could all be searched for specifically. But again, as I said before, the more you say, these are my filters, the less providers will show up on your search. And just remember that just because something isn't listed on a profile for a provider, it doesn't mean they don't offer it. They may. All right, so you do your search, and this is kind of what the page looks like when you get to it. It's going to have basic info, contact information. It's going to tell you how many kids are at the program. It's going to tell you when the license started. There is a little button there that you can type, that you can push, and it says more info. When you click more info, it will expand upon that. It might say that the program is a non-smoking program, or it might say they have air conditioning, or what their hours are. It might list how much their prices are. So those will look different from provider to provider because it just depends on what they entered into that program. And each site there will be a childcare licensing report. This shows that the annual inspections by licensings were done and any concerns that were found, any corrective action plans, or any accidents or incidents. Now, reports from licensing are a regular part of being a licensed center. So a corrective action plan shows that the program is committed to growing and improving as a center. But if you see repeated findings or serious offenses, those would be a red flag about a center. Also, what you will see when you're searching is there's a little set of stars on the upper right side of each of the entries. And that's that Great Start Equality Rating program that Sarah is representing here. Participation in the rating is optional, but if you do participate, it means that the program is going through self-assessment and feedback annually, and they're adhering to a higher standard for programming. You can get up to 5 stars possible based on 5 areas, which is the staff qualifications and professional development, family and community partnerships, the administration and management, the environment, and the curriculum and instruction. Now, if you don't see any stars there, it does not mean that the program is a poor quality program. It means they didn't go through the process of being evaluated for a STAR training. All right, and all of the programs that show up here have met licensing requirements, and they're a safe and reputable care program, and they've met all the requirements they need to do to be licensed. So we're going to do a live search, but are there any questions so far before we start our live search? No? Okay. Well, let's try one, Marnie. All right, so when you come in,
or am I on the right page?
this.
Right. You never know when you switch screen sharing.
I do see what you think I see, yes.
Okay, awesome. You don't just see my inbox. All right, good.
No. So you're going to come to the top there and it's going to say families. And we do, however, see that your top bar there, Marnie. Is that okay? Okay, good. All right, we're going to click families and then come down to finding childcare and preschool. And then once you get there, there's information about looking for childcares. But additionally, you'll find over on the right-hand side, click find programs is what you're going to click onto. And that's going to bring you into the search engine. Now, as we said, you can go as a guest or you can make your own, but I'm going to go as a guest. So let's say we're going to look at Eaton Rapids. I lost you. Come back. It's thinking about it. So we're going to pretend we're in Eaton Rapids. And when we start, we're going to be looking at all available care. So we're going to say yes to centers, yes to family homes, and yes to group homes. And down below, we're going to type Eaton Rapids. Now, if you type Eaton Rapids, you also have to click that little blue thing or it doesn't acknowledge that you wrote it. I found that out. And then you're going to click find. And what's going to pop up is all the care in Eaton Rapids. And so we have 18 different programs there. But let's say I decided, you know what, I really don't want a center. I would really rather have the intimacy of a house or a group program. So I can go back to change basics, search basics, and take that off. Say, I don't want a licensed center anymore. And now go back and say, find again. Now just that click alone has taken us from 18 to 9. So it cut us in half. But if this is what I want, this is fine. But let's say I decide I want to even do some more filters. So I need care starting at 7, but I need it to go to 7 in the evening as well. So I'm going to go down below there where it says hours and days and hours optional. And I'm going to say I need it from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And it has that lovely drop down that you have to work so hard. There you go. And then I'm going to say find again. And now I'm going from 9 programs down to 2. And I won't make us go the next step, but I put down one for a faith-based program and it took us down to 0. So the more you put the filters on, the harder it is to find care. So I'm going to have us back out again, if you would, Marnie, and say, okay, we still want just the license and family group and family homes, but take off the time frame on it now. So that's gone. And let's go back to our 9. All right, so as you kind of glance down, it's going to give you information. I'm going to go down to one that's called Miss Mary's. Where's Miss Mary's? There she is. All right, so Miss Mary, if you look at it, she has capacity for 12 kids. She's been in operation for 5 years and 8 months. There's her information as far as where she's located and her phone number. There's a map there you can click and it'll show where she's located. We're going to click that more information button there. And you go here, it's going to tell you how many openings she has, but down below, it's also going to tell you if it's a smoking home, which it is not. It's going to say it's an air-conditioned home. It's going to say they provide lunch and breakfast and snacks. It's going to say there's no transportation available. So it also answers some questions about some of the payment policies, like there is a registration fee. They do a written contract. They do daily reports. They have a backup provider, which is a really, really important thing to have when you have a child care person. Pay is expected when a child is absent. So that gives you a lot of answers to the questions that you might have. It also might have some information about if you have a child with special needs. All right, so if we come back out of here to the top again, you'll see in the kind of bottom right of the upper panel, it has a little blue highlighted thing that says Child Care Licensing Report. And if you click on that, what it's going to do is it's going to have the licensing documents that they have. It's going to give you some more information. And down below is the actual reports. So you can see their original study, their inspection reports, annual reviews, and it's just going to be, you can read right through them. So you can find out any situations that might be there. Again, being alive and being in a program, you're going to have some corrective actions and there's going to be situations that will be there. So remember that you're looking for a pattern of problems, not that they had one incident, okay? All right, now if you click out of this, Marnie, and go back to the top again. Yeah, so scoot us back up again. There's a couple different ways of looking at reports. So you'll see there's 5 green boxes in the middle of that blue panel. The outer one says share, And if you click on that, you can email the information that you found to yourself, or you can print it out so you can look at it when you're, sitting, because sometimes you don't want to be sitting at your computer. And if you scoot over to, there's a thing that says view. And view, this is what's called the summary view that we're looking at. But if you click compare view, it'll make a tighter document that has all the information kind of on one page for you. So it has the name of the program, what kind of a program it is. It has those star ratings down the side that shows you if it's no stars, it means they haven't gone for one yet. It will have, if you look under the ages and care from, age care for from to, that's what it says. Some programs don't accept children under the age of 3. So if you look along there, you might see occasionally where it says, 3 to 6 or 3 to 15. So just take a peek at that real quick. It'll tell you how many kids are allowed in the program. So is it a family or is it a group? And then if you go through these and you find some that you like as you're looking, you can click the little boxes on the side and those would be saved as your favorites, which is kind of a nice thing. All right. The last thing that I found out, which I thought was very lovely, is if we went back out to change search basics. This is the new thing I found and I thought it was brilliant. I'm going to pretend that I live at the high school, just for example. So I'm going to pretend I live at Eaton Rapids High School. We're going to type 800 State Street. And then you have to type Eaton Rapids and you have to add the zip code, which is 48827. And then you come down to find. If you have to do all of those areas or it doesn't work. But it does offer you a radius. How far are you willing to drive for care? So if you want to look within 20 miles or so, you can slide it that far. But now when we click find, it's going to list specifically how far our centers are from your home, which is lovely because I personally don't know my way around the city I live in that well, but this will tell me how far it is from my house. So I don't have to know where the street is. The other part that's really great is if you go up to this thing that says map view and click it, it shows your house. And then it shows all those centers around it. So if you make the map a little, yeah, that's exactly it. It'll show where they are from you. All right. That is a lovely tool when you're trying to figure out where things are and how far you have to go. All right. Well, that's kind of the walkthrough of the program. Do you have any questions about the Great Start to Quality that you can maybe send to Sarah there? Any questions of that walkthrough? No? And Sarah, do you have anything to add? Did I miss anything?
I think you covered it beautifully. And yeah, I would just reiterate too that I know it can seem kind of shocking when you see all those programs that don't have a star rating. But yeah, I just want to reiterate that's an optional program and everybody who's on the site is licensed, and the ones who do have a star rating just means they've gone above and beyond licensing to do some more things. But that, it's, if you don't have a star rating, it doesn't mean you're a bad program, certainly. So I know it can kind of come across that way, like, oh man, this program doesn't have any stars, it must be bad. That's not the case at all. So just something to think about as you're looking.
Good point. Thank you, Sarah. All right. So we're going to go on to our next step, step 4, which is screening a program. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to be making robot calls. You're going to be calling program 1, program 2, program 3, program 4, and you're going to be saying the same thing. You're going to, rather than telling them your life story, you're going to ask them basically 3 things. You're going to say, I'm looking for care for a 4-year-old. I need the program to start as soon as possible, and I need it from 8 to 5, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Tell them exactly what it is you need. That will eliminate a lot of time because they'll either say, yes, I have an opening, or no, I don't have an opening. And then you mark it up on your little box that you've already looked at that one and go on to the next one. Now, before you start making those phone screens, you should think to yourself, what are a couple questions that are really important that I find out before I even think about moving forward? So usually it includes cost. How much is it a week? Do they take a CDC subsidy, if that's something you have? Or can they support your child if they have special needs? For example, if they have an allergy, or if they have autism, or if they have mobility issues. Those are the really primary questions that came to mind, but you may have different ones. So what are your 3 questions you're going to ask on the phone before you decide, yeah, I want to go visit this program. I want to go check it out. Now, on the next screen, when you're preparing for a visit, you're going to want to take a little time before you actually show up at their house and think to yourself, what is it that's really important to me? Now, Great Start to Quality has a really lovely a resource that has an article that says, is this the right place for my child? So it's an article and then it has a checklist. It is an extensive checklist. It is multiple pages, and you cannot go in there and read 20 questions to the person, but you can look at it to think, what's important to me? What is my #1 priority? Is it that I want it to have a really rich outdoor curriculum? Is it that I really, really want safety to be this paramount? What's the important thing for you? So you might be looking about availability of services, supervision and discipline of kids, ratios or positive guidance techniques. You might want to know what training the staff and the directors have had. Do they have CPR training? Do they have first aid training? Was everybody fingerprinted, which they should be? You want to learn things about their lesson plans or kind of what they're deciding to teach each day. You want to ask questions about health and safety. You want to make sure that they have a place for the kids to play outside, or what the space looks like inside. And then you're going to want to ask questions about policies. In writing, you want to know about accreditation, you're going to want to know about evaluation, all of that kind of that paperwork sort of stuff. Now, when you're ready, you're going to call the person and set up a visit. And when you go to the center, you're going to want to bring that list with you that you created about what your most important questions are. And if you can, bring another adult with you as well, because sometimes I get so in my head when I'm doing something new like this that it's helpful to have somebody else there listening to the answers and looking for things with me as well. So if you have another adult, bring them along. What you're going to be looking for is signs of qualities and sign of concern. So quality, the first thing I look at is, what's the engagement of the adults to the children? And what's the engagement of the reaction of the children to the adults? So if you go in there and the adults are smiling and they're interacting with kids, and the kids are, hugging them and running up to them, and they're cheerful and happy, that gives you a really good sign. You can look at other things too. Now, we wrote here, clean and organized and safe classrooms. Here's the deal is, if this place is really about kids and about kids exploring and kids doing what kids do, there's going to be a pretty high level of mess. By mess, I mean toys out and books out and paint around. I'm not talking about cleanliness, meaning is it sanitary and is it organized so that the children can access materials? But frankly, a little bit of chaos is a good sign. You want to look for some evidence of planning and lessons. You want to look and make sure equipment is in good condition. There's no broken pieces. When you go outside, make sure that the fence is going to keep the kids in. If they have a fence, make sure that the equipment is all the correct size. There's mulch for falls. We want to make sure that materials are appropriate for the kids in varied ages, and that you maybe have a dedicated reading area for the kids. And then look for those health and safety things. Are they washing their hands? Do they have electrical sockets covered and cords secured? Do they have a first aid kit readily available? So that's what you're looking for as signs of quality. Things that might be red flags for you. Now, there might be one of these or 2, but we're looking for a pattern again. So the building maybe doesn't feel secure to you, or the staff weren't very welcoming to you. When you come in, if the kids aren't really engaged with the staff, for example, the staff are talking on their phones or watching TV and not really looking at the kids and playing with the kids, that's a big sign of concern. Are the children being left unsupervised? Or is there no area to play outside? We want to make sure the staff is using appropriate language. So if you hear yelling or negative language with kids, that's a red flag for you. The toys, we don't want to see broken or inappropriate toys. We do not want to see TV being used instead of interaction for kids. I mean, that's a really big one. And then You want to look for presence of dangerous things. Are there cleaning supplies or medication left down within kids' reach? Are there knives or scissors left down? Electrical cords reachable by kids? These are your kind of your red flags when you're searching. All right. So while you're there, you're going to go through. So let's say, you go there and you like it, but you have some questions to ask. These are the sort of questions you're going to be talking about, because this is going to make the decision for you. So do they have the hours that you want? So the days of the week, the range of hours you need. Is your price range as well? What is the payment policy? Do you pay a week in advance? Do you pay 2 weeks in advance? Is there an application fee? Do you pay if your kid is sick? All of those things should be talked about before you make your final decision. Does it offer a sibling discount or take the CDC funds, for example? Talk about drop-off times and pickup times. Are there late fees? Are you flexible about the hours? Are the kids at the center required to have immunizations? We talked a little bit about training. So are the staff and the teachers all first aid certified, for example?
I do want to jump in on this one, Betsy.
Yes, please.
Always. So licensing does require that there be staff on site who are CPR and first aid trained, but sometimes, especially when you think about a center, some centers might require that every single staff member has those versus just the required number of people. So if that's something that's important to you, definitely ask, but do know that licensing does require that that in a group family, center, that there are people on the premises at all times that are certified in CPR and first aid.
Thank you, Marnie. All right. Other questions you're going to be talking to the provider about are, do they provide the food, or are you providing food? And if you have allergies with your child, you're going to have to discuss that now. Philosophy about childcare, discipline policies, that kind of conversation is fun to have. What's the visiting policy? Can you pop in anytime you want? Toilet training. Toilet training is a really big thing, and it's a very fascinating conversation to have with the provider. And then what's the communication going to be? Are they going to get conferences with you? Are there newsletters? Do they text you pictures? How are they going to communicate with you during the day? All right. So we've got this program, and we kind of like it. Are there any questions so far? Anything jumping out?
You guys, I know that's all really overwhelming. That was a lot of information, but definitely keep in mind, especially when you're looking at that program policies and things like that, those don't all necessarily apply to your situation. It's really about sitting down and thinking about what's really important to you. Yeah, there's 15, 16 questions on there. In your situation, you might really only be looking at 4. So don't definitely don't get overwhelmed. And also keep in mind that a lot of programs will have some type of handbook or manual that after a tour they can send home with you, and you can really read through all of that information and get a lot of that without having to necessarily spend like a couple hours really grilling a provider like I did. But
thank you. That's a very good insight, and I can only imagine your first visit. No, I'm just kidding. All right. Well, so let's move to step 5. So step 5 is securing care. You decide you love this program. It seems like it's going to be a great fit for your family. What's next? So the first thing is you need to confirm with that provider that you would like to sign on and enroll your child. Do that as soon as possible. I'm telling you, there's not a lot of open spots right now, and they fill up very quickly. So when you hear about one, grab it and start looking early enough that you can find those. I mean, people are already looking now for their fall care. So it's 4 months in advance, 5 months in advance. So that's not unreasonable. Pay any application fees, pay any deposits so that you won't lose your spot. They'll have some paperwork for you to do, such as an information form or health forms, and that'll all have to be done before your child starts. There is a medical release form that the providers will give to you, and that has to be completed within 30 days. Whenever possible, get it done before you start. And that's just basically a quick check like during your wellness visit. If you receive CDC subsidies, you need to get a form from the provider. It has to be signed and then uploaded into your MyBridges account. You want to confirm with the provider when is the first start date, but also can you schedule some visits? Having a kiddo start a new program, whenever possible, you want to be able to give them some time to get used to the program, a couple of visits, transitioning for a little bit longer each time. There is a link there for an article about kind of helping kiddos get ready for our new program. And so pop over there if you want to get more information about that. All right, any questions? No? All right. Well, that's my spiel. So I wish you great luck with your search, and I hope you find an excellent match for your family as you're looking. Marnie, do you have anything to finish this up with?
I'm going to invite Sarah to share anything we may have missed here, since she is definitely on the provider side of all of this.
Yeah, definitely. No, I think you covered it beautifully. And I was just going to add, I will put my my email in the chat box. So when it comes time for either of you to actually start your search and you're looking, Betsy did a great job of the overview of the website. But if you need any extra pointers or anything like that, part of my job is to also help do referrals for childcare. So I'm going to put my email in the chat box. So either of you can feel free to contact me if you need a little extra guidance when it comes time for that. Did I spell that right? Yeah, that's right.
Absolutely. And I will be, I'll be following up with everybody in an email. So Sarah, I'll be sure to include your email in that as well.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Marnie. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. All right. So, yeah, it's a big process, guys. And I really hope that this presentation just gave you some more insight into, you know, what those steps look like, and really into how to utilize the Great Start to Quality website. As Betsy said, that is your one-stop shop. If you were looking for a licensed out-of-home provider, so out of your home, you're not going to be able to find a nanny there or someone to come into your home. But if you're looking for care outside of your home, that is the only place you need to look for a licensed provider. And that just makes it so much easier versus doing all these Google searches and asking around. You'll be able to see every licensed provider that is in your area. It's just a wonderful, wonderful site, and has a wealth of information. And I will just reiterate, though, that one caveat that not all providers put in as much information as others. So please don't be discouraged if, you know, you're looking for something specific and it's just not coming up. Sometimes you really do just have to make those phone calls and say, hey, like, my child has a food allergy. I don't see that as something you listed on your program. Is that something you deal with? These providers are busy, caring and loving for tons of kiddos, and remembering to go and update that profile is the last thing that they're concerned about. It just really is. They don't have someone, an extra person on staff to do that. I used to be a person on staff at a child care center, and it was my job to do that, and I often forgot. And I wasn't even in the classroom. So please know that there's a lot more going on often than what is listed on those. So sometimes you really do just need to pick up the phone and, you know, ask those questions if you're not finding what you need. And again, I'll just reiterate that those star ratings are amazing. But like Sarah and Betsy said, no stars does not mean it is a bad program. These are all licensed, safe, wonderful places for your children. And again, those star ratings, it's a voluntary thing. And some people just haven't gotten to it yet, because they're busy loving on kids, and and it takes time to go through that process. So they're just not there yet. I will send a copy of this presentation to all of you, along with all of these resources and any links that we mentioned within it, so you don't have to go back through it just to find them. And I really appreciate that you guys were able to join us at 7 o'clock on a Thursday night. But at least it's still light out, because when I was doing these 4 months ago, it would be dark out right now. So if anyone has any additional questions, let me know. And otherwise, thanks for coming, guys.